Welcome to another episode of the Sales Manager Academy podcast. As always, I'm your host, Omar, and we talk about retail leadership in boutique settings. So, what does that mean? We're talking wireless retail, AV, we're talking appliances, we're talking things outside of your traditional big box retail boxes. We're talking about, we're not just selling products, we're also selling the services that go along with the products itself, right? And this is a more diverse set and also a more narrow set of offerings that we have. And you typically aren't leading a team of 60, 70 plus. We're typically talking about working with companies that have a smaller footprint where maybe, 10, 20, up to maybe 100 stores. There are a few out there that have a lot more larger footprints, but the majority of y'all work for companies that have a footprint of 100 or less, right? 100 stores or less. Uh, and you typically feel that you don't have the support that you need or the development that you're wanting from your company or organization in terms of leadership, in terms of losing employees. And you feel like it's a constant churn and burn. You feel burnt out. You're trying to figure out how can I get my life back? And I'm here to tell you, I get it. I understand there is a way forward and there's a way to be able to stem that burnout so that you don't have to constantly feel that you're on the edge, that everything is on your shoulders. As a leader, that's the last thing you should be feeling. You should be able to develop and train your people to an extent where it doesn't really matter whether the organization has anything in place or not. You're able to thrive, and they're looking at you and wondering, hey, what is this leader doing? What can we incorporate from what they're doing into the whole organization? Let's bring them in. Let's do something different with this leader because they're developing not only their salespeople, but they've got such a great bench when it comes to future leaders. They do so well, and it's somebody that we can always rely on. So, with that note, I want to talk about something when it comes to your leaders, when it comes to your bench, because the issue a lot of y'all have, because I've been there, I've seen it firsthand, and it's something that I changed for my team and ended up being something that ended up changing a lot within an organization, is not having glorified sellers as managers. Okay. What do you mean? You guys know what I mean. You typically take or you force a promotion on your top sellers because you think they sell great. Not only will they pull up the numbers at a location we put them in, but they're going to rub off on the other employees. They're going to lead by example. People are going to watch them and be able to mimic what they do without understanding how actually that occurs, how people train and develop others, how people learn. And it's not a do as I say type of situation or, do as I do type of situation for the most part when it comes to aspects of like selling, customer interactions, because there's different nuances that can't be taught when you just have people watching what you do instead of you training them up and developing them. Okay. So we don't want to do that. I don't want you to feel that that is what your go-to is. That, you know, if your store manager is your top seller, that, hey, everything's going to be fine because you guys know it's not. Typically, it's toxic culture at that location. You have high churn rates, you have constant complaints, right? You have bad operations. All right, raise your hand if that's been you, because I've seen it. I've taken over territories. I've jumped in to help other territories. And that's the one thing I've always noticed. It's like they got great sales, but the operations are just horrendous. It doesn't matter how much they sell when on the back end they're bleeding so much because we don't get paid on what we sell. We get paid on what sticks. And that's the most important thing, not just for you and your territory, but also for the organization, for also your people, because it doesn't matter that they sold 100 units if they're only getting paid for 50 units. That still puts them below quota. That's still right because you guys, if you're only focusing on quotas on the front end and not focusing on the back end is what matters the most. The back end is what keeps the organization running. The back end is what keeps you getting paid and keeps you keeping a job. That's the important thing that we need to focus on. So I don't care if it's a top seller that's there. I care about what the operations look like. I care about what the back end looks like because I want to make sure everything is solid. I want to make sure my salespeople don't have any complaints because, hey, I sold 100 units, but I'm only getting paid 50 for 50 of them. What the hell's going on? I don't want that because that's high employee churn. That's high employee turnover. And I want to prevent that. I want my people to be happy. I want them to be taken care of. I want them to feel like they can grow and have a future where I'm at. That's the important thing. So don't fall into the glorified rep trap. Don't promote your top sellers into leadership roles strictly because they're a top seller. That means shit. That doesn't mean anything. Okay. If your store manager is the highest performing salesperson on that team, there is a big issue. There is strictly a big issue. Leadership requires letting go of being the hero and stepping into the coaching mindset, stepping into the guide, right? Being the wizard to the hero. That is what you want to do as a leader. You want to remove yourself from being the star and let your people actually step up into that role. And you do that by guiding them. They're going to learn things on the journey. They're going to fall flat on their face. They're going to have failures. That's part of the journey. As a guide, as a mentor, we're there to help them along the way. So, as a DM, as a regional, that's us as a whole. Your leader is that wizard that's closer to them, that knows more about what they do on a day-to-day basis. So that's what their role should be. It shouldn't be to be the glorified seller taking away sales and then having the operations be trash. Okay. If your manager can't step back from selling long enough to build their team, you're just building a house of cards. It's going to fall. It's going to fail. When the leader's not there, when that top seller, the manager that's not there, performance is crap. Why? Because they haven't trained and developed their people. You haven't coached that person to be a true leader, to train their people up, to develop them so that when they're gone, when you're not there, the store still performs. The store should actually perform better for the most part when the leaders aren't there. Why would that be the case? Because when the leader is there, there's more administrative work that needs to get done. So we're not only taking hours away from the team as a whole for that, but sometimes we need to pull people from the floor at times to focus on other aspects, whether it's coaching, whether it's, hey, there's operations that need to get done, these learnings, because we all know we have those, right, that we need to stay on top of for whatever reason. But you know what I'm talking about. Okay. So for the most part, that's what we should see. So if your sales aren't top of mind when your leaders aren't there, then what is going on? It's a simple red flag for you to let you know that, hey, that individual that's in charge, that's leading the team or supposed to be leading the team isn't doing what they're supposed to. So it's not the leader's fault per se. It falls on me, on my job, on my shoulders to make sure that that individual is trained up for their team, to make sure I'm not losing employees, to make sure I'm not constantly having to interview and hire new employees because I can't keep employees at this location. It's a shit location. I'll tell you this, there's no such thing as a real shit location. I've seen bad locations. I've turned around bad locations. There's always a way to do things. You have to have the right mindset going in, and you have to allow the people to be actual coaches, to be trainers, so that they can train and develop their people to work in that location, right? That makes a difference in how profitable locations can be, on how profitable your employees are, because that's what gets them paid. When they're in sales, they're commission based. They got bonuses that they're going after, and that's what matters to them. That's what keeps them around. It's yes, maybe prospects of, future growth within the organization, but the here and now is because they're making money. That is what we want to make sure they're doing. And I want them to constantly be feeling like, okay, yeah, I'm actually working towards something that's good. I'm not wasting my time because I'm selling, but I'm not making any money. That's what I don't want them to do. I've had people that were supposed top sellers whose commission checks were trash, even though they sold large volume because the KPIs were so horrendous. And turning things around, even though they sold less, they would make more, still above quota. And what that meant for me is that they're not churning through customers, they're not churning through clients. So there's more opportunity for somebody else to spend more time with a customer or a client and actually make the sell worth it for everybody involved and not have one individual do a large amount of volume but almost be skinny cells where there's nothing going out. Those are wasted opportunities because now I have somebody who sold twice as much, but is making as much as somebody who sold maybe a third or maybe half of what they had sold. That's what you want them to focus on. Your leader needs to understand that. Your salespeople need to understand that we're here to help them develop themselves into better individuals as sellers, as leaders, as employees, as people. Because when they become better at what they're doing, they become better holistically. You're helping them learn new things that they can take to other aspects of their life outside of the workplace. And that's the important thing. Okay. So take a look at your locations. Take a look at the managers that you have in place. Are those locations growing the talent, meaning that they have low churn and their teams are performing better every month, right? It doesn't mean that they're 20, 30, 40% month over month. It means that they're getting better. You're taking a look at seasonality, you know what's going on. You're taking a look at year over year numbers, month over month numbers. And are they getting better or are they getting worse, right? What are the numbers saying? What are the numbers telling you? What are the actions of the individuals on the floors telling you as well? Okay, because I can tell you if numbers are getting bad, and then I'm also having an issue with employee attrition with churn, it's a leadership issue. And it's not that leader's fault. What it is we haven't trained and developed that person to be a leader for that location, for that team, for their people. And that's what we want to focus on. So, first things first, you got to know which of your leaders need a little bit more help in getting developed and trained as a leader for their people, for the organization, for your team. Because remember, how the team performs is a direct correlation to the amount of training and development that you as a district manager, you as a regional are spending and doing with your team. That's very important to understand. Now, the other aspect too is we talked about this earlier. Selling is not coaching. It is not a I lead by example and I sell so my team should be able to sell. No, you're not spending time in actually training them and developing them and getting them to understand why we do certain things and helping them, more importantly, build the fucking habits to get better. Without the habits, nothing happens. It's like saying, yeah, I'm gonna, play in the NBA, but I'm never gonna train a day in my life unless I'm on the fucking court. Imagine having a coach that says, yeah, I'm gonna train my people when we're on the court. The fucking coach doesn't play on the goddamn fucking court. They may have played a long time ago, but they're a coach now. They're on the sidelines. They're training and developing their people and making sure that they can run the plays, that they're running the drills when they're not playing, i.e., they're not dealing with customers. They're not customer facing at that moment. They're not taking calls from a customer. When it's downtime, coaching and training sessions. It doesn't mean you're doing an hour, 2, 3, 4 hours worth of training. It means you're doing a focused training session, a coaching session, and you're helping them run that drill mentally so that they can get better for that next customer coming in, for that next interaction they're going to have. This is not okay, yeah, if they just watch me sell, they're going to pick it up. Once again, it's like being a fucking coach in the NBA and saying, I'm not going to train my people. They can just watch me play on the court and that's how they're going to learn during game day. The fuck are you doing as a coach? That doesn't work. You guys know that. And that's how you have to look at it. Okay. You have to have a system in place that teaches your store leaders how to coach. It's going to take a little bit of time. And this is why I say it's very important to start and do the coaching sessions. 15 minutes a coaching session goes a long way. And when you start doing that and you start developing your sellers with that system, it's easier for them to pick it up when they get promoted into an actual leadership role because they know what it looks like on the flip side. They have a better understanding of how it works. And they now are switched and are the mentor, the guide on the other side. So they just have to learn on how to shut up and let the other individual run the conversation, which is a little bit harder for them because they're so used to being the person that's doing 80% of the talking during those coaching sessions. This is where things start to get really, really good. They start to get better for the team and they start seeing the difference. Now, if you're wondering how can, I set something up, how can I get an actual system that's replicatable that I can do consistently and is set up so that I'm not deviating from the coaching session, take a look at the link in the bio, take a look at the link in the video description. grab that 15-minute coaching framework. It's a free template to be able to use to help you do a coaching session in as little as 15 minutes and have your people walk away with a lot more value from it than they would have from a 2, 3, 8-hour training session. That is how impactful this can be. And the biggest thing is that you're working towards the visualization, the goal setting, the commitments, right? The action items, and it's all being tied together in a very cohesive setting. And it can be done in as little as 15 minutes. You can have some of the most impactful sessions for coaching in as little as 15 minutes of your career. That's how big this can be for you, for your team. And when your store managers start doing it, they will start getting better as well. They get better through mastery, and mastery happens with practice. Okay. That's what we're aiming for. We want to be leaders of or masters of leadership. You do that by being a student of the game. You're constantly learning and adapting. And even though it's a simple one pager, that template is very fluid because it allows you to adjust to the person that you're speaking with, the person you're coaching. Now, give this to your store manager, download it or have them download it themselves directly, and give your store leader one task today. Have them run a coaching session with the rep using that template. It's fairly simple and almost self-explanatory, right? But if you guys want, we can do a session on one of these lives, on one of these podcasts where I walk you through doing the actual 15-minute template in real time. And it's super easy where I can break it down into each section. We can talk about each section separately and what the psychology behind each section actually is. It's designed on human psychology and habit creation. That is what we're after. That is what we want our teams to get better with and to be constantly focusing on is not just creating the habits, but reinforcing the habits. And that is the reason why I'm not a big fan of doing those 8-hour, day-long session or doing a weekend session because that's going to get all the information that you need. No, it'll introduce you to things. Yes. You're probably going to retain 10, maybe 20% of the information, depending on how good your notes are. But the fact is, you're not reinforcing the behavior or the information that you've learned after that session. And if they tell you, yeah, just reinforce it, they're not giving you the ability, actually showing you how to reinforce those behaviors going forward. This 15-minute template, super easy because by doing it, not only is that creating the habit, it's also reinforcing the habit. It's as simple as that. Now, very straightforward, very easy. Grab it. Let me know what you guys think on it. Okay. Now, the other thing that you need to really, really hone in on is understanding that you don't need better managers, better leaders. You need to develop them. Don't worry about finding them. Yes, every so often you might find an individual that already has everything that you need and is a diamond in the rough and doesn't take much for them to get going. But that is on the off shot. That's a once in a blue moon situation. What you want to do, if you want a system that's repeatable, if you want consistent success, is you need to develop your leaders to be leaders. You don't just want to put them in as a glorified salesperson with the title of a manager. Put them in, train and develop them. It's better to train them before they get into the role. The second best time is to train them up when they're already in the role. Okay. Stop expecting them to just step into the role and to magically get it to be a great leader because they're a great salesperson. Those are two different things. And you have to understand that. A lot of organizations don't because they're like, oh, they work closely with the manager or with the owners or the execs of the company because it was a small organization, but now we're growing. Now we have growth and they don't have that, that close separation between the execs, the owners, and the people in the field. There are more layers in between. And with more layers, there's more lost communication. There's more lost feedback. And that's what we're adjusting. That's what we're fixing by using the coaching templates, by using the 15-minute framework for coaching. Uh, and guys, leadership is built through intentional training, habits, and reflection, not a title. So when your teams are going through and your store leaders are doing the coaching sessions with their people, you come in as as a DM, as an RD, and you're reinforcing the coaching that they're getting. It just signals that, hey, this is really good. Like I'm getting better because of this as well. So maybe I can do this myself. Your people can literally do their own coaching sessions. That's how important some of this stuff is. They can run with it. I've had employees who would do their own coachings with other peers because the peers saw them and now they have more room. They feel better about asking for help from others. They feel better about, you know what? I'm lacking in this area. I really want to get better because this is what it means for me, and I can get the assistance. I'm not afraid to ask other people, and other people are also stepping up. Now they're inherently doing what leaders do. They're guiding and mentoring others. So it makes that promotion much easier. It makes that transition from seller to leader so much easier for them and for all those involved. That is what you're after because that gives you consistency. That gives you a great bench when it comes to future leaders when you need to promote somebody because we have a new white space or I promoted somebody or somebody's left. It allows you to be able to bring them on board and it's less of a transitionary period for them and things don't suffer. They're actually getting better. And that's what we want to focus on. Okay. So use it, download the form, take those leadership, your leaders, take them to the next level. It's not on them when they first step into the role, it's on you to train them up and coach them up because it is what they need. They need a guided mentor, especially when they're fresh, new into that role. They may know and understand the procedures and the company's information on the back end. That's great. This is a different role with a different type of mastery for skills that are needed. It's not about selling customers. It's about training and developing their people. And as a DM, as an RD, it is your job to coach the coaches, train the trainers. And that's what you want to focus on. So once you start getting it going, it's very easy to move forward. It's very easy to keep it sustainable. And if you want something to kind of help you get in the right frame of mind with your team and get them really on board, start a weekly leadership roundtable with your store managers, focused only on development, not on sales goal, right? This is a coaching session. We're talking about training, we're talking about developing them as leaders. And they understand when we come into the session, webinar, phone call, in person, depending on, your situation, this is what we're focusing on. We're focusing on developing you as a leader, and this is what we're going to focus on. You don't want multiple focuses when you're coming into a training and coaching session. You want to have something that's to the point, simple, and sweet. Very, very easy. But start doing a weekly leadership roundtable. You can do a monthly. There's not enough at the beginning. There's not enough reinforcement for that. Once you have your team set up, once they are good, then you can move to either a biweekly or a monthly setting. And you can start focusing in on maybe the future leaders that you're looking at and open up the door for them to step up if they're wanting to also increase their leadership capacity for future roles within the organization. It can be that easy, guys. It doesn't have to be super complicated. But I want to leave it there for today. All right. Don't expect your leaders, to magically step into a leadership role for the first time and get it. It takes training and developing. Use the form, the 15-minute framework that you guys can get in the link. Check the bio, check the video description, download it. It's free. Use it and set up, a weekly training session for your leaders, for your store managers to train them and develop them if you want to bring them all together to be able to focus in on either a group training. But still remember, when you're doing your store visits, set time aside to focus on them as well, especially when they're first starting off in the first 90 days as a store manager. All right, guys, I'll leave it there for today. I want to say thank you once again for stepping into another episode with us here at the Sales Manager Academy podcast. As always, I'm Omar, and I'll catch you on the next one.